Welcome everybody to this conversation. This is a conversation going to be about purpose and the ish and how it is difficult sometimes for us to find that purpose and what else is part of it. So with me here today is Priscilla. And Priscilla, why don't you say a few things about yourself before we start, and then I'll do my introduction.
Thank you, Pauline. It's a pleasure to be here. I love being in your presence, so it's gonna be an awesome conversation for sure.
Thank you.
For everybody, just a little bit about me. It's like I am a life coach, and I help people overcome their mind obstacles. So that's
That's
that's my
awesome.
purpose.
Yes, that is a great purpose, and it needs more of that. And I'm a creativity coach. So let's see what comes out when there is a purpose coach and a creativity coach together, and what can we create together so that maybe somebody out there can glean some part of it that can inspire them, something that can ignite a new part within themselves. So, to begin with, what is our question? What is your biggest question right now on your mind around your purpose or around what it is that you're trying to achieve?
All right, my biggest question is that question is kind of easy because that has been something that has been playing in my mind for quite a while, like now since last year to be exactly. When I created my podcast and I started doing that, and then there were one moment that I started questioning how I was doing things, and then I got stuck there, and then after a while I realized that it's not about what I was doing, but like my purpose is to help people, but I my struggle is to see that end result, like to really create that image of how I'm doing things and helping, the whole world in a sense, because I don't think only because the way that I see things is for every person that gets healed, it goes up to our expanded and greater consciousness. So like we are healing the planet as we heal ourselves. So that's I think that because of that thing being so big, like as we heal one another, we are healing the whole planet. I'm kind of struggling to see the bigger picture, because that's a big picture already.
Yeah, so are you struggling to see how you affect the world by contributing to it, or you struggling to see how it is that you are helping individual person from the bigger picture? Because on one side, it seems that you do understand how your work on a smaller scale improves the world on a larger scale. But where is the gap? Is the gap you thinking that it's too big for you?
Maybe. Yeah, that maybe might turn into a yes, let's be honest.
Yeah, because that picture looks super huge when you consider the whole world, and you just the only one person trying to affect that. That is enormous. That is like trying to grab the whole ocean and put it in your pocket. You know,
I love that.
it's
Yeah. Yeah, exactly that. Like it's impossible.
yeah, and when you come against that kind of concept, I would suspect that it would put any stop anybody in their tracks when they're trying to go and achieve that enormous, giant, massive purpose. So
Yes.
if that has been your thought happening for the duration of the whole year, I have to heal the world. The world is going to just die without me. That would be huge weight on your shoulders.
Oh yeah,
you
for
know?
sure.
And in addition to your family and everything that you do, it's almost seems to me like it's a cognitive overload. Like your brain just can't process that much.
Yeah, probably because like I've been feeling when I try to start thinking about that, I'm getting like this foggy, brain. When I like because I'm pushing it. Like for the past 2 weeks, I've been trying to push it harder on myself to figure that out because even though um like because I put so many things on hold because of that pressure, and I'm adding more pressure. It sounds crazy, right? And I'm a coach. I should, like I can help myself in some degrees, but not all degrees. So I know that I'm adding more pressure. I'm 100% conscious of that, and that's crazy because like I'm trying to make it like, okay, let's do this. Like it's now or never,
Yes, so that is the big picture thinking, and even coaches need coaches because even though we do understand how it works, even though we have all the tools in our knowledge within us, sometimes it's like there's a southern saying that I love, you can't see the label when you're sitting inside the jar. So even for somebody who's a coach, you might be aware of all the things that are affecting you, but you're not able to change them because you can't access them from the outside.
Yeah, it's 100%. Yeah, that's something that is very important,
So if you were to look at your purpose, you have a huge, bigger picture, which is great.
Mhm.
But what would be the scale down, one step down? How many people could you help
That's the
a
thing.
little less?
That's the thing. Like, if I, like my scaling down goes to Tony Robbins style,
The 5,000 people at one time,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
nothing else will do.
No, it's not like it's funny like we're talking about this, but I remember like the first time that I had this really like that I had this sparkle like guiding the way towards coaching for me was when I was watching the Tony Robbins I'm Not Your Guru on
Mhm.
Netflix. And
Yeah.
I was watching that and it was like, ooh, like I like this, like this is me, like this is me. I had that thing inside me like that's it, and it was like, okay, let's do it.
Mhm.
And when I try to scale down, like I always go to still a bigger picture and like yeah.
Right. But it's not feasible because Tony has a whole team around him.
Oh yeah,
Like he doesn't do it by himself.
I
He's built
know.
himself to do that. So when we look at that, we get super inspired because it's such a grand purpose at work. And it is so amazing to see that because obviously the world needs that. It feels amazing. There's a that experience called communitas when people gather together and they have this united experience, elevated experience, and they do that. So to manage that requires a whole another set of skills. So until you gather all those tools needed to perform that kind of thing, what would be the scaled down version of that, which can still affect the world, but allows you to build up?
Yeah, I've been thinking about like actually I'm working on this. Like I'm um putting like doing some just the beginning of a book, writing a few ideas down that I'm gonna be doing with um a friend, another coach, and we are working on this and just at the beginning, the first stages, like jotting down ideas, but we're doing this, and I think like this is way more manageable for me because it's a book and we have time, we don't need to rush, and it has flexibility and everything, but it's still missing the coaching part. The
Yeah.
right now for me it's kind of hard because I have two little ones, so it's being like a struggle to manage two little ones and coaching.
Yeah. So I totally understand because our business almost like is another child for us. So
Uh-huh.
we want to spend time with that baby, with that business baby, but we have other children at the same time. So there's this, and it's unfortunately that's a thing with mothers who run in the business. I know because I'm a mother myself. So it's always becomes where are you going to divert the time? Are you going to divert it to the business, or are you going to divert to your physical alive children that are right there? And it's always challenging because I find that we downplay the role of a mother in our society. We put it on the, like, when the children are born, the mother becomes invisible. At least that has been the experience for me. When my
Hmm.
daughter was born, I nobody was talking to me anymore. Everybody was talking to my daughter or about my daughter. I just
Uh-huh.
faded into the background.
Yeah,
So
it's yeah,
you
it becomes a background work, right?
yes. So you're doing all this, the enormous amount of work, full-time job, the thing, tending for the kids, tending for the home, doing whatever else on top of that, and all of that under assumption that you're not really visible, you're not really that important. You're just doing it because, well, that's how things are done. So I think that it's possible that we start the businesses sometimes trying to be more visible, trying to get more recognition for ourselves and say like, hey, we're important, you know, uh, we want to be visible more so than we are because it's a need. It's one of the psychological needs to have the recognition, to have the love and connection, just
Hmm.
like and significance at the same time. So oftentimes significance goes down because all other needs are being prioritized at the moment. So it always becomes this tricky work. So if you're saying that one-on-ones are not so often for you right now and you would like to have them more often.
Yes, for sure. But then it's oh goodness, this is a whole crazy charade. If I get more, um, so let's go from this. Like, at, in August, a school year is gonna begin, and then my oldest one's gonna start school. So that's gonna make things easier. And I can totally see things changing a little bit there. Um, but I'm not sure I'm able to let go of the little one still.
Yeah.
you know.
So
And
until then, your time is kind of uh, maybe not so much available for the one-on-one calls, but you
yeah,
do
I think
like
it's more
doing
like
them.
a mind game that I'm playing that, like I could hire a nanny to be here, in the living room taking care of the kiddos while I'm working, but I'm not doing it.
Yeah, and what do you think would happen, or how would you feel if the nanny was there looking after the kids for an hour while you're doing the work?
Guilty as hell. Guilty as hell. you know? like, I'm
Isn't
here,
that
they're there, like, I should be there. That crazy concert that we're out, we should be around them 100%, like 24 by 7. Like, we shouldn't take a break. If we take a break, how dare you? That kind of stuff.
that is the thing, the guilt, the mom guilt. I think
yeah.
if anybody is watching this right now and they have kids, they know exactly what it is. It's just inherited. It's part of the territory. It comes with kids. Give birth to kids and you get guilty right away. I don't know how it is constructed and where it comes, but I find that guilt is the most useless emotion ever.
yeah. It's
So,
crazy.
yes. And so knowing that, we notice it. And the thing that we do with guilt is that we judge it, and then we judge ourselves. I shouldn't be
Yeah.
feeling guilty, but I'm feeling guilty. And so, what would happen if you would stop resisting the emotion of guilt so that you could release it and let it go? What would it look like for you to acknowledge it, it's there, not resist it, fully kind of embody it, and then let it go? Or what would it look like to just
What would it
fully
look
acknowledge the
like?
guilt?
Okay, let me try to see if I can make up an image. um, I don't know. There's just like I can't see it, but there's like this one specific person that I can see it. And the problem is that I like at the bro. Okay, so let's stop right here. Yep. So the thing is trust. Because the only person that I like that my brain can find peace and ease with me working right here and they over
Mm-hmm,
there is if I could have, and that like I had this thought and I tried to go and find a lawyer to help me out with that, but I
mm-hmm,
couldn't. Was to bring my formal nanny to come
mm-hmm.
here and help me out.
But you can't for whatever reason.
I couldn't get any lawyer to call me back. That was
Oh,
the only yeah, crazy.
huh.
So like
Okay.
I called like several of them. Like I left messages because like all of them asked to leave message. The secretaries asked to leave message because of
Mm-hmm.
COVID. They're not taking,
Mm,
you know, in-person consultations anymore. And it was like,
yeah.
okay, so I'm still waiting.
Okay.
But anyway,
So
I can
that
see
is
that is the trust, factor there because I trust her and I know like she's gonna really be, giving them the same sort of love that I would be giving them.
right. Okay. So let's say that option is not available. So is the trust the only thing that is kind of standing in the way, or is there also guilt around spending money on that nanny while you're working? Or is there actually your presence that is also a factor?
No, I think it's like trust, especially because my son has allergies, so it's kind of hard. But since we're home, there's not much of that I could, say.
Hmm.
But maybe, let me see. If it's not trust, what is it? What would it be? Uh, hmm.
What would be the time amount that you would hire that nanny for? 1 hour, 2 hours?
Like, I haven't had any, 3 hours in a row kind of work day yet. So it would be like probably for 1 hour here now, like in the morning, and then 2 hours in the afternoon. But, I would have to work that out to make that more, you know, put put them together so it'd be easier. Instead of just being all over the place, that makes it
Hmm.
difficult too. With the scheduling, like having an open, like having a more close schedule might help. Um, but yeah, I think like if it's probably like 3 hours in a row, I would feel guilty about it.
Hmm.
I would, yeah,
Well, considering the fact that, so because I coach in flow science and flow state, the maximum amount that our brain, it has been studied that the no, the biggest, longest amount that we can be in that highly focused state that's called the flow state is maximum 120 minutes. 120 minutes is like an hour and a half.
yeah,
So consider that half an hour preparation and then half an hour and a half of deep work would be 2 hours. So let's say you hired a nanny for 2 hours, couple of times a week, and you could decide and exactly specify what kind of work would you do during those 2 hours. Do you think you would be able to kind of override the feeling of guilt through the feeling of completion, feeling of satisfaction. No.
Yeah. Yeah. That guilt
that
is. Uh,
So have you tried it in the past to hire a nanny and be at home at the
no,
same time? Oh,
I wouldn't
okay.
allow myself to. It's like the guilt is like, no, you're not doing that.
Well, what would it take for you to try it without committing? Like try one day without not setting up any expectations for further continuation. Maybe even have a friend come over and pretend that she's nanny so that you can see what goes on in your head as
See,
that
just
is
the
continued.
thinking about it is like, nope. That's like, nope.
Mom guilt is strong. Mom guilt is strong. And so what I'm thinking is that there is a reason for that, for those feelings in the mother's
Mhm.
brain, because it's actually been found that when the mother undergoes the pregnancy, the portions of the brain that are responsible for noticing danger get a lot bigger. It's just biological protection for the child. So we come pre-programmed with those things. And the guilt is likely serves us some kind of biological function so that the children remain with us, so that we don't let anything happen for the survival is a biological thing. But if we were to consider that this is coming from the biological organism, what happens if we separate the soul from it? The soul wants one thing and the biological organism wants to survive. And if we identify too much with the biological body,
Uh-huh.
identity, the person, then we're definitely going down that road where we're never going to achieve things that we want to achieve because it doesn't care. Body just
Mm.
wants to survive and it's running on the programs that it has prescribed to. So how can then we have to start thinking, well, how can we start influencing the body so that we can release the reins a little bit, so we can grab that ability to think for ourselves a little bit more and not just go along with what the body wants. So what comes up for you when you consider that possibility?
Yeah, I totally agree with creating the separation of body and spirit. But and I could visualize it, but when I do that, like I get disconnected from which is 100% expected from the feelings, right? Because I'm not attached to it anymore, to the body experience anymore. But it kind of somehow I feel like loses some sort, like it loses the purpose of it. I don't know. That's
Which
what I'm
loses the
getting.
purpose? Where's the purpose being lost in there?
My connection with my kiddos.
Okay, so if you separate the soul from the body, you
Yeah.
also lose connection to the child or
Mm-hmm.
children.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So your mind might think that the connection is only biological when we know that there's a lot more spiritual connection than biological.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you were to consider that there is already spiritual connection to your children, what what does it look like and what do the children look like in their spiritual kind of avatars without bodies? So if your spirit connected to the spirit of your children, what is the interaction there?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Yeah. Um, yeah, I can see like this triangle thing within us. Like it's like a V shape being formed. Like um yeah, I just see like it's crazy that we're talking about this, right? But I see like in this first person kind of view, like there's like some sort of cloud energy that represents me, like two streams, very
Mm-hmm.
bright,
Yep.
strong. Um, and solid in a way. Like it still has like some, fluidity to it, but like more a dense
Hmm.
string. And then I see their it's crazy because it's like about the eight, like the size is about the same size that they are, like small one, like the little one, the bigger one. Um, yeah, I can see that.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so if you were to ask those two forms, what do they need from you in this moment or in the next moment? What do you think would be the answer?
Nothing. Nothing. Like that was the answer that I got as soon as you started asking. Like nothing, right? I need nothing from you.
Right, because the connection is already there. They
Yeah.
don't need nothing because you already gave everything through your spiritual connection to them.
Yeah.
So if you were to be in another room, not even in another like building, but in the same house within the next room, would they still need anything from you in that moment? They would be
No.
fine.
Yeah.
As long as their safety is taken care of, as long as they are fed and secure and happy and playing, they might even invite a new interaction with somebody else to play with, to change up things around. And as
Mm.
long as the spiritual connection remains, it's possible to consider that they won't even notice you being gone for 2 hours in another room.
Yeah, probably.
So that is kind of the tricky part of our minds creating these limitations for ourselves, which is needed. We need the limitation to exist in this reality. But I invite you to consider this, and this might need time to kind of be processed. But every time you consider the possibility, go back to that visual of being connected to the
Uh-huh.
children and see if you can shift it somehow through that vision of that connection, of those strong cords that cannot be broken. They probably can't be even broken through death because they're so strong and there's so much love flowing through them. So in comparison to that, what does guilt has? Like guilt has nothing against love, you know.
Yeah.
So if you were to think now, would keep that visual in mind of those
Okay.
two spiritual connections, and then consider hiring nanny for 2 hours while still connected to your children through those cords.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
That is kind of, it seems like that was the missing link to remember the connection that is already there beyond the physical, because there's a lot of theories going around that this physical reality is not even real. It's very subjective. It's kind of an illusion. And so, if it is a screen that is pulled in front of our eyes to kind of make us believe that physicality is physical, then everything is already connected. Everything is already has those cords that cannot be broken, and nothing we can do in this physical that would affect it.
Uh-huh.
So if we were to go back to the purpose and the work right now, what would you do if you had those 2 hours, even once a week? What would you accomplish in those 2 hours? Or what would you focus on?
What would I focus on? What would I focus on? It's kind of hard to focus right now because I just got connected to the whole planet.
That's good. That's good. What happens when
uh,
you get connected to the planet? Do you lose focus? Because connection to the planet is supposed to ground you.
yeah, no, I kind of did because like when you started like I had like my two connections with them, and all of the sudden when you started talking, asking your question now, I just got this huge expansion that literally connected me to like I don't know how many. crazy souls out there. um,
Okay.
and I don't know, it was like, it is calming, uh, but I don't know, it's like I think I'm getting used to this thing.
Well, here's a thought. If you are already doing that grander purpose that you envisioned in your
Uh-huh.
physical mind, but you
Hmm.
are already doing it through your children, through the connection to your children and the connection that those children have to something else. What if
Uh-huh.
you are already fulfilling that purpose on some level that you don't even realize?
That's what I'm thinking.
And if you are doing that already, do you really need to do anything other than just be love for
No.
your children? And you don't even have to be in the same room with them to express that. What if the whole purpose, and I know we hear it a lot sometimes, well, a lot or not a lot, that some souls are here, and that's kind of a bit metaphysical, but some souls here on earth just to be within their frequency. That is the entire job description of a soul, to come here down to earth and hold the frequency. That's all. So you can just sit in your chair, hold that frequency of love or whatever it is that your signature emotion, feeling frequency is, and it will be enough.
I'm just getting the chills. I swear. Yeah, no, and I think like you're right, because like when I found like my connection to them and I saw them, and then the whole thing like it expanded. I think that's what I'm feeling like, and that was the what I heard back. It's crazy. I'm not crazy. I
No.
just said that I heard something,
Yeah,
but the nothing. You don't have to do nothing, like you have to do nothing, and it was like okay, and then this whole gigantic connection, and it's still like you don't have to do nothing, you know. There's nothing
exactly.
expected from you.
Yes. And the trick part with that is that in these experiences, it's easy for us to hear it and it's easy for us to perceive it and it's easy for us to remember. But then we go back to doing dishes and folding laundry, and our physicality comes forth and we forget. And when we forget, we go back to the structures and the ways that kind of the world has set up for us to do, which means we have to do this, and then we have to do that, and we have to do a whole bunch of physical things in order to get somewhere. Because time, space versus space time, if you've ever heard Joe Dispenza talk about it,
Yeah.
we transfer in this physical reality, moving from point A to point B, and it takes us time. But in the quantum field, there is no space between the A and B. There is no need to move physically anywhere. So what if we are all already doing that work that we see Tony Robbins doing physically, what we are doing with our spiritual connections already, but we can't see them because they are not part of this physical expression. And so, what are we to do if that is already undergoing? But the world tells us that you must be doing something because this is what we do in this physical reality. You have to be producing and
Yeah.
making something visible.
Crazy, right? Yeah, you gotta do something, you gotta be something, you gotta achieve something, and all of
Yeah.
that. And
But the thing is with
I
the
think
people,
after the feminism, part of the story where we started raising our voices as women, like it kind of got even harder for us because now we are adding the pressure on ourselves to do something and be something and achieve something.
yeah, and there's a long history of kind of staying quiet, long history of fear, long history of all kinds of low frequency emotions that are just inherent in women all over the place. And it becomes our kind of challenge and opportunity, how to free our souls from that, from those restrictions, from those limitations, which at some point may not even serve the purpose, because everything serves a purpose in this reality. But now that we are looking at it from this dimension, from this perspective, if things are already done, what can you do next if you're already doing your big work on some level, which is imperceptible, yet it is perceptible if you tune into it? What could you do with your life in general? What kind of things could you achieve? What kind of things could you do that you don't have feeling pressure to achieve? Would you still be doing the business, the podcast, the book, all those things that you are trying to do right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would it be different, different feeling to be doing them, knowing that the main work is already being done?
100%. 100%. And like it makes it's sort of like making the connections coming up a lot today, with the, you know, the spiritual realm with, you know, our physicality,
Mm-hmm.
and just um, bringing that awareness, and making it, you know, just bringing that awareness and trying to, you know, bring that to attention to more people, generally speaking. But no, no need to pressure myself to achieve anything.
Well, that's a great shift. That's a great shift in perspective. So now the kind of final part, how can you make yourself remember that feeling, that perception, that viewpoint? How can you kind of catalyze that in sort of like new glasses that you can put on when you forget? What can you kind of record this feeling into, or maybe attach it to some kind of a thing, or write it down? What would be the action, the physical action, to remember this
Mhm.
feeling that you're experiencing now?
Okay, let's create an anchor.
Well, for
Hmm,
example, the chair that you're sitting on, it,
hmm,
first of all, the color of it is already very purple, which is the higher dimensional kind of associations with higher levels of thinking, higher levels of chakras and all of that.
uh-huh.
So if you were to kind of attach this feeling to the color purple, to the feeling how the fabric feels, the softness of it, then could you, every time you sit in that chair, remind yourself about this feeling, this experience, and those connections to your children and to all others that you heard? If you
Yeah,
sit
no,
in
for
that chair
sure.
and feel it surrounding you, so as if those connections have your back.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah, I can totally do that.
And so, because when we sit in the chair, we don't see it, we just kind of experience it. The
Hmm.
same way it goes for all our perceptions. We don't see them, but we feel them behind us, kind of behind our eyes. So, if
Hmm.
you focus in the feeling in your back, how it leans against the chair, how the softness of the fabric is registered in your fingers, and associate that with those connections, the multiplicity of those connections out there, which is not really far away because everything is right here, right now, then that chair surrounding, kind of wrapping you with that warm embrace, signifies your bigger work in the world, and the connections from it, and the feedback and support from the universe itself.
Yeah.
And it's a rocking chair, so it provides the movement as well, so that if you really make this chair your universal kind of bubble, then in any stressful moment, all you have to do is sit on it and remind yourself about this experience. And it's a great chair to meditate as well.
Yeah, now this chair, like I can never, like, let's not say that, but I wouldn't. I would not want to get rid of her for sure. Because
Yeah.
like it's been we have history. We have
Mm.
history. Yeah.
Is it a good history?
Yes, it is. It is. Yeah. The I don't I was sitting here when I graduated and did my online presentation for the
Mm.
panel to get my coaching certificates.
Yeah.
I was sitting here when I did the UPW. Uh,
Yeah,
and
amazing. And so
so,
the
like,
universe
yeah,
has presented you with this opportunity to study from home in this
yeah.
chair, because it's almost like the seat on the spaceship. Yeah, you know, the Enterprise, they have
Uh
this
huh.
special chairs
Yeah,
from which they gather in the ship. And so this is kind of your seat at the front of the ship where you steer the whole thing in the universe. It's amazing.
yeah. Love
And
that.
you've traveled so many places already with it. So there is so much you can associate, and it's all good, and it's all for the expansion. Even the way it's kind of comes out, it signifies the expansion.
Yep.
So I think that is a really good opportunity for you to kind of anchor that feeling and the connection, and remember that, because that seems to be the biggest thing that connects to your bigger purpose, the worldly, universal, everybody out there purpose type of thing.
Yeah.
So when you are connected, everything that you do already has the purpose behind it. And when it has behind it, no matter how small the work is, it's already feeding into that bigger purpose.
Yeah.
So so how does it feel now to be thinking about your purpose and moving forward in your magical chair of the universe?
Sounds really good. And I do strongly recommend everybody to get a chair.
Yeah, it looks really, really awesome. Definitely gonna look for a chair like that. So what would be your next step now that you have this new understanding, new perception, new viewpoint?
My next step. Stop procrastinating. Get back to it.
Well, that is almost kind of
That was what I was
coming.
doing before. Yeah,
You used
let's
to
not be judgmental.
procrastinate. Yeah, so if we just forgive the previous version of you for doing what she was doing, but now moving into the new opportunity and new kind of galaxy in that chair of in the spaceship of your life, what would you want to consider doing next? What would be your inspiration to put your attention on?
Let me see. I like that spaceship, like I'm captain, like going and you know get to see new galaxies and explore the world, the universe. Where would I go? I would go back to the podcast right now.
Yeah, and what would be the very first thing that you would need to do right now, like tomorrow, to start on that kind of journey back to podcasting? What's the number one thing that you would need to do to kickstart the process again? Will it be to connect the microphone, or upload old podcasts, or completely scrap and make a plan for a new one?
Yeah, I gotta start from zero. Yeah, and I guess that's was the hard feeling that I was already getting, but didn't want to face it.
That you have to restart again?
Yeah,
But you wouldn't be restarting because you already had experienced
yeah,
what
I
it
already
was.
have experience. Yeah, but I don't know why it was so hard to let go of the podcast before, but yeah,
Would you
I
have
guess
to
this
make a
is
new name for it and completely change the channel?
yeah. That's the honest truth, yeah, I feel like I have to redo everything because I still love the unbecoming you. That's
Hmm.
the whole thing. But and I'm getting
What would
more
be
of
the
a
next?
vibe because before it was more of a vibe that I had to look back. And
Mm,
I was in that stage. I had to look back and look at things in order for, to solve a lot of things that I was holding on to. And
right.
now it's been like a few weeks, probably months now since I'm hearing this this voice inside my head. Um last year I was invited to be a guest speaker in an online event that happened for women, and the person that was interviewing me, like in during the thing, the week of the event, she introduced me and she said something about the post that I did. That life is not about finding yourself; it's about creating yourself.
Yeah,
And I feel like now it's like now I feel like it's not that I found myself, but now I just let it go of all of that previous baggage that I was carrying on, and now I'm ready to start creating my own life. So
exactly.
yeah,
And wouldn't it be exciting to start new and fresh
yeah,
with a new name and a new brand new podcast without looking back at the baggage? So then
yes,
starting again would be actually exciting. It's like going to a brand new city where nobody knows you and starting fresh, making new friends and things like that without dragging everything from before.
okay, yeah, okay. Now you got me because of your the analogy that you used. Uh, Going to a new city, I think that that might be another block. This is gonna be crazy. So
Look at that. What's the city brings up?
the thing is, when I was a child, we moved so many times, and I
Mhm.
was always the new kiddo in town,
Oh,
in class and everything. And I was all, it was like, exhausting getting myself acquainted to school with everybody, making friends, and then I would make some friends, and then here we go again, starting off from scratch. So it's like, whew, here again, starting off from scratch.
well, did at one point it became easier making new friends?
Not sure how to answer that question.
Well, so the first couple of times you moved was really hard, but at some point, when was there a point when you moved to a new city, new school, new place, that it was easier for you to make new friends because you knew the process and you knew how it worked and what you need to say
uh,
to people.
Maybe yes. Yeah, in some ways,
And
probably yes.
and now, as you are going into life, is there other aspects of meeting new people that could be easier because of all that training that you did in younger years, moving from place to place and learning how to get friends with people you never knew? Right. So if we
Mm,
consider that everything we do is a training, then the earlier experiences would have been the training for this getting
100%.
knowledge and skill.
Yes. Yes,
So if you
100%.
let's imagine you became a kid again and you had to move to a new school with all that knowledge of moving around before, would it be easier for you to make new friends again?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, so all of those things that you have gathered, now how can you apply them towards every new endeavor? Because every new opportunity will come with new people. And so, especially coaching, because coaching is constantly meeting new people. But
Yes.
now that you have all this experience and training, moving around, becoming sort of like a gypsy, and gypsy are such free souls. They have freedom within them because they're moving around and they know how to get along with people, they know how to move around because of all that experience, versus somebody who never moved ever anywhere.
Yes.
You see how much flexibility you have gathered because of, and those experiences were difficult because learning anything is difficult. So thinking about that is like thinking about learning how to walk. Everything is hard the first time around. But if you don't remember, if you don't focus specifically on the process of learning and actually focus on the outcome of it, how does that feel? Does it still feel kind of tension there?
No, it's way more achievable. Yes. And the thing like I'm thinking here is too like I like giving my I think I was still kind of locked in to going back to my younger self and having that talk. Okay, so this happened, you're good, you've been good, and I can I can see all the learnings. Just okay, so yeah, let's do this in a different way. Like now, I'm gonna rock my style. you know, yeah.
Yeah, because if we were to go back to school now as the adults that we are, we would look and feel and perform and do everything so much better.
Oh yeah, it's
And
like
so,
whatever.
exactly. And if we never did that before, if we never experienced those things, then we would have to learn them now. So if you never moved around before, you'd have to start now learning those flexibility skills, those communication and relationship skills. But because you already done them, you don't need to do them again.
Yes.
And that's
Yeah.
awesome. So, okay, so let's go back to
Okay,
starting
yeah,
the.
let's go back to the spaceship. Yeah, now I can see myself going to new like galaxies and going to the podcast and started brand new without a problem. Yes.
And do you have a new name for it, or do you need to think about that one?
No, I'm thinking about it. Um, like I had like this one split second that I started thinking about it, and then I got trapped in not wanting to think but about it before. But now I think like my horizons are open and I can start thinking about you know
Yeah,
new
and like
things.
every spaceship or every mission out there needs to be some kind of a charted plan. Where are you going to go with that travel? And so for me, what I found works is that even after I remove all the limitation, I'm going forward, there will be days when I don't feel like doing it. So what I'm doing right now is actually working great for me. I'm doing video a day or the 100 days of video challenge. And that one is achievable. And as long as I keep on my schedule, like I wrote it down on the schedule in every day, and the video is only 60 seconds. I mean, what possibly can come up for me not to do a 60 seconds of talking? And so the
Oh
only
yeah.
thing that lots can come up. And the only thing that kind of keeps me progressing is that I make check mark on the day and I like seeing the check marks progress. And I only
Uh-huh.
have 30 days to look at. I don't look for 5 months ahead. I'm only looking for 30 days. And I have prepared kind of prompts for every new video that I'm going to make.
Uh-huh.
So even though if there is resistance, if I don't feel like, I already know that I have the prompts, which makes it a lot easier. If I don't have something coming into me, then I'll just use what I wrote prepared. So that's kind of becomes like a part of the charter, part of the plan of where to go. And another thing is that I really like seeing the check marks. So like right now I am 18 days out of 100, and I'm not worried about how many more days there are in
Way
the
to
future.
go.
I'm only looking at the fact that there's 18 done. And
Uh-huh.
that keeps me going because I like to see how far I have progressed. So
Oh
18
yeah.
is great. And so if you approach
And
the
I bet you
podcast with
feel
the same,
like really good when you're going down to the next one, right?
exactly, exactly. And meanwhile, the content piles up, the videos are kind of being created, the process is moving forward, and I'm slowly becoming a different person through that process. So for you as well, okay, so podcast, check. Decided that it's going to be brand new podcast. Name, if you figure it out or not, that's another kind of check mark. And then create a decide when are you going to do it? Are you going to do it once a week, twice a week, and just outline it on a square sheet of paper with 30 days on it so you can see where those spots are, and then see what you need to do for every spot of those podcasts. Well, maybe you do need to hire a nanny for so you can record those podcasts, or maybe you need to plan it for when the kids are in bed, whichever it is. But as they say, when it's scheduled, it gets done because you have already written it for yourself.
Yeah.
And especially if you invite guests, you would have other people kind of waiting for that. So that would be already kind of your additional kind of attachment to that charter, to that
Hmm.
plan.
Yeah.
So that could be useful in that journey. And once you do 1 month, you would have a whole bunch of stuff recorded, which would be a basis. So that when you're looking for next month, you can say, oh, look at that. I already created a whole bunch. It's great.
Yeah.
So how does that feel achievable?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, right now I'm just trying not to think about any space related names for the podcast.
Oh, I know, right?
Like no, really, I love this, analogy that you created about the spaceship, the chair, It was fun. It is fun.
Yeah, well, you can use it as a prompt to get you into that space of mind. And then you can kind of look at the earth and see which area on the earth you want to focus on and create about or speak about, so that you can pinpoint locations on earth looking from space, from your expanded mind, from your expanded consciousness, and just kind of ground into the frequency of earth and say, okay, so I'm working with earth right now. What would I like to give or send to earth to help those inhabitants get even 1% better?
Yeah.
So then you can start thinking about the earthly grounded names that inhabitants of this planet can relate to. And so
Yeah.
that becomes a process of expansion, contraction, out, space, ground. And because we're connected to both space and earth at the same time. And so that back and forth thinking might work for you to kind of bring it back down, then expand back down, and base your creative process on that dynamic.
Yeah, and as you're speaking, I remember like there's Dr. DiMartini, he talks about it, creating an astronomical vision. And he talks about like I think like he has like a keychain or he has like a small globe or something like that that he literally spins every day and say, look what
Yeah,
what I'm gonna do today. What is
there
it
you
that the
go.
world needed today? So I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so maybe you need to get a little globe so you can stand on your desk, and whenever you're in your chair, you're looking at that globe, sort of like a captain charting out the plan. Okay, so today we're gonna go to this place, and use that
Hmm.
exact same technique with something physical in front of you and a support of your chair in the back and support of all those connections. And in that space and frame of mind, what new things can you discover?
Oh, I'm excited for that. Yeah,
All
this was
right.
awesome.
So did we make a kind of connection for one issue, the purpose that we wanted to look at and overcome? Is it feeling lighter? Is it feeling more achievable, more
Oh
doable.
yes, Explorer 2.0 is getting off ground.
Yeah, yeah, that is
Uh,
awesome. I love this. It's I almost got the visuals that you were getting. It was really
like
great.
uh,
Right. Well, okay. So this is we're going to kind of complete here, and thank you very much everybody for watching. And we'll see you next time in another episode of this exploratory mission.